What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're taking a look at the Bitcoin price chart and we'll peek a little bit over there at the altcoin market. Bitcoin's price having a little bit of a pullback today. As you guys know, we've been following a fractal for almost 6 months at this point. We had a lot to talk about in yesterday's video that I knew that would ruffle a lot of feathers in regards to what's going to happen if we continue following this. Now, let's zoom in on what's been happening recently, and then we're going to talk briefly, but there was a pause that happened in this moment. So things are still on pace with this fractal. Now, if you caught yesterday's video, we talked a lot about, hey, what's going on with the altcoin market? If this thing goes into a retrace, it's going to be difficult to take, any type of gambles on whether or not an ABC is going to show up, if it's going to break away from this fractal or not. My hopes are that we do break away from the fractal. It's actually incredibly annoying to be following something so precisely because you kind of get backed into this corner. You say to yourself, hey, what's the typical thing that happens at tops? The typical thing that happens is ABC structures. It's what we saw happen at the bottom of the Bitcoin bear market back in 2018 and 2019. It's what we saw happen at the top of the bull market back in 2017, 2018. So in most circumstances, that would be the thing we'd be talking about right now. That's what I'd be saying. I'd be like, hey, look, we're going for an ABC correction. We know that in 2018, we pulled right back up to just below the 618 or right at the 618, had a big old pullback, and then we went off and alt season continued on into this moment. But we're stuck in this situation right now. Are we going to keep following this thing precisely? If we do, showed it yesterday, this thing plunges to like $10,000 if it continues following it. But based on the reality of it is this thing will eventually change. It will eventually break from this fractal at some point. They always do. But the big problem here is saying, when is that going to happen? It's been almost 6 months of following it darn near precisely. So when does it break free? Normally, ABC correction. Super simple, normal stuff. It's what you got on Bitcoin at the bottom and the top. It's what you even got over here on gold. Same stuff, right? Gets up just almost to that 618 retracement, pulls back to the lows, then pulls up and gets itself to the 702. Grueling, painful, but normal. Also, we're always talking about this inverse structure over here on Bitcoin, or at least the bottom of Bitcoin back in 2018. Invert it. You can even see in here, super normal. You pull right back up near the 618, pull down, and then off into the C leg you go, A, B, C. And so that would be my thought process here during the situation we're in. After Bitcoin hits a 4.236 extension on its market cap, A, B, C, and then off into long-term bear market it would go. But of course, we're still stuck in this thing, right? So the big question is what's going on with the altcoins? Are the altcoins going to take off? There's about 23 days left in here until March 24th if it continued going at the exact same timing that it has. So it's followed not only structure, but it's also followed timing. This is incredibly unusual. I think you could talk to any TA guy out there in the world. This is so unique. This is almost ludicrous how incredibly precise this is. It's not almost ludicrous. It's ludicrous. And so at what point do you have to stop looking at it, right? What point do you start taking the gamble and saying, this is the moment that it's going to break. This is the moment that it's not going to do it. And I think we're just kind of having to wait to see moments that could show up that would indicate something different has happened in here. You could see even in this moment right now, back in the previous fractal, right? It pulls back up into this area and it works this out for a little while. That's where we are right in here right now, right? So still continuing to follow it in here. This dip means nothing. It's still exactly like what this time period was right in here. But if we get a further breakout higher, then at this point, right, it's like, hey, altcoins, you got to get going. You got to get going. Or else Bitcoin, you need to pause out in here and start doing what structures look like heading into ABC structures. In other words, looking for Bitcoin to kind of pause out in here and have a pullback into these levels before heading off into here. If you're looking for optimism for the altcoin market, which is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for optimism in the altcoin market. I'm going to be looking for altcoins. You got to get going right here. Like you got to get going. And if they're not going to get going, hate it or love it, I will be cheering for Bitcoin to hurry up and get kind of rejected and start showing a structure of an ABC. Because if Bitcoin starts pushing up into these price levels up in here, it becomes very difficult to say, hey, this is going to stop. This is going to stop at some point. It likely will. It likely will stop. But how do you make that gamble and say it's going to for certain, right? But let's look at other things within the market for the altcoins, right? So like one of the things we've looked at a lot that has been, an indicator of an alt season happening has been the Bitcoin dominance plus the Ethereum dominance. And we look at this because when this is falling, it's indicating that the remainder of the altcoin market is taking off besides Bitcoin and besides Ethereum, at least that the remainder of the altcoin market is outperforming both of them. In 2017, we had 2 time periods where the entire altcoin market, so everything, was beating out Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's what happens when these dominance charts are falling. And we know that in the spring of last year, we had a moment in time occur just like that. And that things have been very similar until here, that we've seen an equivalent fall happen in here. And that if we were to see something similar like that, we would see another additional fall in the Bitcoin and Ethereum dominance. Now, with both of those charts hitting 4.236 extensions for their market caps, right? Bitcoin and Ethereum both hitting the 4.236 extension. Hey, there's a lot of catching up that has to happen here in the rest of the market. Is this setup? Yeah, we can look at this fractal and say, hey, this is what happened last time, but is the setup that's actually happening right in here common for what happens when new plunges fall down, right? Last year, we were monitoring a lot of these charts on how they were looking for reversals, right? In May, June, and July, this was the common fall. We always talked about, hey, you have your fall, your double bounce, sideways, capitulation. This was the XRP price chart. The altcoin market had the same thing. You had a double bounce with your sideways and then your capitulation. Bitcoin back in 2014, as it was popping and heading towards its lows, you saw it, right? You had your double bounce, your sideways, and then your capitulation. And even in 2018 in the bear market for the total altcoin market cap, sideways, capitulation, and that's the ending. If we look over to what's happening over here with these dominances after the big fall, you've got that going on in here right now, right? So that's the standard structure. That's what also happened in here, right? Standard structure. Quite a bit more volatility in here, but that's what happens prior to falls, right? And it's just staying down here at the lows like we had happened back in 2018, 2014, and 2021. It's common. This is what happens. Double bounce, sideways, and then you have your final capitulation. So we have that setup going on in here for the Bitcoin plus Ethereum dominance. And a capitulative move would indicate that the remainder of the altcoin market would outperform Bitcoin and Ethereum as it did back in 2017 twice, and as it did back here in early 2021. So are the dominance charts setting up similarly to what happens when you're at that final phase before they capitulate? To me, they certainly look like it. So it's not all gloom and doom right now, right? But it's just kind of that moment of like, hey, you ready to do that yet? And like one of the things we talked about a lot over the years has been the Bitcoin dominance. And, even back here in 2019 saying, look, this is what happened with the Bitcoin dominance during the bear market, is that the Bitcoin dominance retraced back to a 702 Fibonacci retracement level. When you have a big fall like this and then you rotate back up to a 702 Fibonacci retracement level, that's indicative of another low coming in. And that whether or not you love trend lines or you don't love trend lines, right? You see the trend break happening down in here where it takes out the low in here. And then now it's just kind of battling up underneath it, which is what you typically see in these things down in here before they eventually fall apart. We're kind of just sitting in that in here as well over on the Bitcoin dominance, that you have the big fall bouncing sideways, waiting for the plunge to happen. And so as Bitcoin now, like we were talking about earlier, not a big deal. It's still following precisely what it's followed. Bitcoin just poked its head above $45,000 at this point, still following this thing. Fingers crossed we start seeing the altcoins go soon, right? So at that point, it would just be like, hey, there's nothing really for me to do except sit back and enjoy the show. But until that show gets going, these are all the things that I'm looking at, right? And hopefully none of this stuff even matters. Hopefully those dominance charts just break down, altcoins rip and roar. But like I was talking about, I try to stay a few steps ahead. So these are the things that are on my radar in case things like that start playing out. So that's where we're at. Exciting time. Bitcoin popping. Will it start to deviate at some point? It's what we're all waiting on. Or will the dominance start to fall? Otherwise, I have to keep this video relatively brief. I've done quite a few videos this week and some long ones. Yesterday was 29 minutes. I have an AC guy coming today. I'm having a problem with my air conditioner, so they're going to try to see if they can fix that. So fingers crossed it's not some serious issue, but that guy is going to be showing up here in about 30 minutes. So that's going to be it for this one today. Thank you so much for watching. If you're looking for something to do, you can check out my website over here. It's bcbacker.com. It's a course that I put together where I deep dive into the previous Bitcoin bull runs, the previous altcoin seasons, tying them all together to show how the cryptocurrency market has worked in the past. I talk about my personal exit plans, and I teach you how to set up your own charts and your own indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro so you can do your own charting. I did include the most recent market update down here on February 28th, so just 2 days ago, and you can check out all of this educational content over here on bcbacker.com. You can follow me over here on Twitter at bcbacker. And I want to thank you so much for watching my channel. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice, and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.